Hello. Time to finish case two, I think. Um, Honestly, that twist, I just did not see it coming. In hindsight, I feel like I should have thought that why is Olive Green in this case, right? Like, if I'd have thought that to myself, I don't, I don't know how I would have answered. I, I just, it, I never would have saw it coming. Takumi got me after so many Ace Attorney games. Takumi has still found a way to surprise me. Um, yeah, let's launch the game. Let me just hit them. We still haven't heard this bit. Okay. Oh, hang on. Okay, I got that. But is this the noodler? And these two is nothing. Dun, 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 dun. Joyful jubilant jumping jacks. Oh, Mr. Natsume, I'm so pleased for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, and non-locum judicial assistant Miss Mikodama Esquires. Now, finally, at long last, there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent, and proof that my tea is innocent.
Ah, good morning, my dear fellows.
I don't know how, like, every single scene that he writes where Sholmes just appears, he does it differently every time, and every time it's just so good. Oh, here, look, Sholmes, and may you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent. I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful.
Ah, please save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's very nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces.
Nobody said or thought anything of the sort.
Truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought, tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination has a beauty all of its own, does it not?
Oh, yes.
And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep, I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It's so delightfully simple. People oversleep Because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter?
Oh, yes.
Upon which realization, I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. And the results. By first light, I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness.
Shocking.
And so the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential.
Yes, I think most of us probably knew that already.
What others presuppose, I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this?
Ah! Yes, of course. It's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to...
It was a laborious task, as the bottle was near empty. But such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine.
So I was right.
Perhaps, though of course such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended.
Ah, could I have a word?
Oh, can I have a word? Gregson, how good of you to come. Forget it. Excuse me.
Wait a minute, Inspector. This line's back in.
I don't wish to make a nuisance of myself.
From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself.
My dear Inspector, please speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me.
Do you have the results, Inspector, of the investigation of Mr. Shamspeare's room?
Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. No, I'm here about something else. That dead convict, actually.
Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shamspeare's room? Da-dun, da-da-da-da-da. A man by the name of, yes, Selden.
I went through the archives at the yard and took out the fellow's file. There's something in there that, well, it caught my eye.
Something caught your eye? Wait, what, Inspector? What?
I've copied out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it for yourselves.
Thank you. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court records so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though? So this is the poison we've been hearing so much about. Strychnine. There are a few remnants on the bottom of the bottle here, look. You mustn't be tempted to try it. Of course not. As long as we don't lose this trial. No! Even if we lose the trial. No, we mustn't lose the trial in the first place, Mr. Naruhodo. Make your mind up, Sisatu-san. Who was his cellmate, perhaps? Maybe William Shamspor is his cellmate, that would be weird.
Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion.
Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful.
Indeed, my dear fellows, the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown.
A shining diamond in the rough, maybe.
Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all.
Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way into the courtroom at once.
Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery. Not nodding off at all, certainly not.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Moustache in floods of tears, personally, so best of luck to you.
Welcome, student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
Yes, Mr. Natsume?
It's time, isn't it?
Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspur. This is going to be the final battle. I won't really have saved Soseki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Ryunosuke. You have to. You have to.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again now. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. Namely, that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago is the true perpetrator of this incident.
A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing a reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration.
A rather cold assessment from the Honourable British Prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zyne, is the new witness present and ready to take the stand?
Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord.
Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in.
Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please.
William Shamspur. my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim to be pitied.
Currently unemployed, in other words.
I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Well, no. Not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent, I suppose.
Also currently unemployed, in other words.
What's a coat?
Fuck me, goddamn, why is the vernacular of this day and age so difficult to comprehend?
I like it though. I'm enjoying looking up words every 2 minutes. Coterie. 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 What the hell? If only I knew my bloody IPA better. The letter E with a bar above it means a long E, but which sort of E? It's not like an E like that sort of E. It's like a air. Coterie. 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 Coterie makes sense, I think. A small, often select group of persons who associate with one another frequently.
What a coterie? Mr. Shakespeare.
My lord, I am thy humble servant.
I'm afraid that you're no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant, intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you.
I would for naught else, my lord.
And Miss Green,
Yes, yes.
you are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume.
She's a bit shifty-eyed, I guess.
I'm from... Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon.
And do you accept the charge, Miss Green?
I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, lady, die to live. Verily, I know not thy prickly, pea-pigmented personage.
Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand.
It might be that she isn't the killer, and that we are just bluffing our way to the real answer, because there's just no way to understand the real answer at this point. Like, it could have been, you know, what's his face? Duncan Ross. Like, he put the poison there a month ago. But okay, here's the thing. Why didn't Shakespeare get poisoned previously when he's been taking out the lights? Or has he never taken them out before? I'm not sure.
Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair.
It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It so happens that I passed by that neighbourhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital, fighting for my life.
Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Garrett household. An incident that's rendered you unconscious for some 3 days.
I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife, through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion. What other irrelevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green.
At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened.
Oh no! The incident 6 days ago? You mean you want me to relive that awful accident?
Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shamspeare.
Hey, but what happened 6 days ago is nothing to do with me being poisoned.
Let us proceed then. The witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road on the evening of the 17th of February.
Let's hear it.
It was 6 days ago, about 5 p.m. I was walking along in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it just happened to be outside the house where the men were, in this case, have their lodgings. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakst, for I had bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had little matter to attend to, that's all.
I had a little matter to attend to.
I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all of this business.
Yes, a second incident inside a week at what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume that this is a most unfortunate coincidence.
Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspeare.
It was the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Mary, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above me?
And so Seki-san was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. As suspected, there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. It's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure. There's something lurking in the shadows here. I feel certain of it. And this is my one and only chance to expose it.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish.
Yes, my lord. Dun, 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 dun. Hold it! I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Okay, so there's going to be some hang-ons, or excuse me's rather.
It was awful. I still can't believe that.
Why do I keep doing this, clicking space when I don't mean to?
I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find the case had been solved and the culprit arrested.
Yes, the incident has been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider a bad dream that ended with your awakening. And perhaps it would help you to consider it a bad dream that ended with your awakening and should now be forgotten.
Yes, I suppose so. Thank you.
But before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day, just to arrive at the truth about this new case.
The trouble is, there's nothing to tell really. I was just walking along the pavement. coincidentally, it just happened to be outside the house where the men in this case have their lodgings.
Hold it!
Hold it. What were you doing there that day, though?
What do you mean?
The art school you attend, what's it called?
Oh, yes. It's the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts.
According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just in the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 stops away from the scene on the underground. I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, isn't that right? So why then would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End?
Well, it's because, oh yes, of course. I thought it'd make a nice picture.
The witness is a student of art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint grand urban vistas.
That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town.
Perhaps quaint would have been a less grading term. Point is, she's definitely hiding something. I love how the prosecutor always backs up a witness when they're bullshitting. Like, come on, Van Sykes. Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. If she's trying to hide why she was there that evening, it must mean there's a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this. And you, Mr. Shamspeare, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago, would you tell the court what exactly you were doing?
It would be my pleasure, sire. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakst, for I had bespoke my supper.
Hold it!
Hold it. Tavern, you say? Which one?
'Twas the Slug and the Salad. Oh, 'twas the Slug and Salad where I did tarry. 'Tis a jewel in the East End.
And a little unexpected, I feel.
What do you mean, Lord Van Sykes?
The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronised by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room.
It's true, the menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water in different levels of cloudiness.
I would have expected Grubb's grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas.
Or rather, soupy water and a pea-like mush. All equally appetizing.
I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that?
How different can water really be? Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment. Agreed. It was in that letter. The fact that on the day of all days he dined at a place he normally wouldn't, it does stand out. So Mr. Shamspeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. I don't have the letter anymore, right? I wish we did, but sadly I can't think of anything at the moment. If we find a clue that could explain why Mr. Shamspeare went there, we must present it to the court. Yes, absolutely. This is going to be a long cross-examination then.
If that is all on this matter, counsel, I would ask Miss Green to reiterate her next statement.
Hold it! Hold it! What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate.
It was nothing really. It's not worth mentioning.
If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital.
Oh,
It was related to the card you were holding. Miss Green! What was that? She clearly just hid something behind her bag. That key on her neck is going to be a piece of evidence, I swear. From memory, I believe that the card contained a note that read, "I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross."
well, what does that mean? This has nothing to do with Duncan.
Duncan Ross. Please, Miss Green, tell us more about that note.
I'm sorry. There's really nothing I can tell you. But I can assure you, it's unrelated to all of this. Completely unrelated.
The truth is, you went out that day because that's what the note told you to do, isn't it? The instructions were for you to come to Briar Road at 5 o'clock that afternoon.
I didn't think I should go at first, but then I thought it might be a good opportunity to see what the East End looked like.
Very well, if that's your final word on the matter. Continue, please.
Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Hold it!
Hold it. Yes, you didn't regain consciousness until the day after the trial, did you? In the early hours.
Exactly. So how could I have had anything to do with it? And yet, you still hold me here to court like this. Honestly.
So at the time of the poisoning, the witness was unconscious in her hospital bed. Could there be a more airtight alibi, I ask you?
And yet, in spite of that, you claim I was the culprit.
Well,
But you certainly haven't produced any evidence to support your wild claim, have you? None at all.
There you have it. The good lady has yet to see evidence, my learned Nipponese friend.
I'm working on it.
Counsel, I will point out here that the jury's next decision will be final.
We're really up against the wall here. Mr. Naruhodo, did you notice? One of the witnesses reacted rather strangely to something that was said before. Oh, you mean? That's right. When you see someone reacting in an odd way, it's time to pursue. I need to keep a close eye on on the people in the stand. If they're not speaking at the time, even if they're not speaking at the time, it seems.
Hold it! What?
Excuse me. Mr. Shamspeare, do you have something to share with the court?
To be or not to be, that is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's word springeth from within me, with ne'er a thought.
Don't tell me. It's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps?
Well, nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all.
Presumably you know the name, though. Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house.
I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging be a lonely occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours?
Miss Green.
Me, my lord, have I done something wrong?
The card that was mentioned before, containing the note, do you have it upon your person?
I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really. I want to dispose of the evidence.
Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please.
This judge is a meme lord. He knows. He knows. Of course, that's what links Mr. Shamspear and Miss Green. It's Duncan Ross.
Now, continue with your testimony, please, Miss Green.
Envelope has been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it? Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that. What is it? The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen that exact shape somewhere else. Oh, you don't mean? Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up. They go together perfectly. This torn off end of the envelope clearly belongs with this card. That's it. We can't even read the note. It's blank. Good one. Hold it! I need to read the note. Blah, blah, blah. Mr. Shamspear?
Yes, sir.
On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize, for a very particular reason?
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakst.
Very well, I will present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day. Namely...
Take that!
Take that! I believe this card reveals the answer.
Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean?
That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 PM on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspear, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Maybe she sent the letter to him. That would be a nice twist.
Ah,
Personally, I find it hard to believe that it's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspear?
well... Excuse me, can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green?
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this, old man, does it?
Well, you'd think so, yes, but it's hard to believe that it's merely...
My lord, may I?
May you what, Miss Green?
I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well, then, you may amend your testimony to include details about the peculiar note.
This note was delivered to me at my address. There's nothing to do with the odd man next to me here.
Well, we know what to do to that, but I want to press it anyway.
Hold it!
So I like dialogue. I think you said that you received it the day before the incident, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope.
It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I've no idea who sent it.
I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who is this Duncan Ross, please?
A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest. But in the end, I decided to go.
So you found out what the information was?
Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight.
Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back, as my learned friend hopefully remembers. Didn't that case take place late at night? Ah, yes, of course. She never made it to the meeting. Holy shit. It was late at night, but because it's London and it was winter, sunset is like fucking 4:30 p.m, right? So, logical. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, you pursued Mr. Shakespeare wonderfully there. It's worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere. Well, as you managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that. Ah, yes, of course. Yelling out objections isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose. Oh, right. Objection! The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address. And upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me.
Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn off end of an envelope.
Oh, is it?
And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received.
Where did you find that?
In Mr. Shakespeare's room.
Hey, in my room.
Mr. Shakespeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere?
Well...
Your actions that afternoon follow the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 PM on the 17th. And so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shakespeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green?
Oh, what did I do?
As this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shakespeare's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession?
I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist after all.
There is only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it. Really?
You did what?
Oh, sorry. his Elizabethan is breaking down.
Oh, you did what?
Sorry?
Thou hast what? You broke, I mean, thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me?
It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again.
Miss Green,
Yes?
whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you have endured in recent events, anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind.
Yes or no?
Very well then, witnesses. You will give formal testimony again now. On the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received.
Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, I do remember now. 'Twas a week ago. Peradventure, that note was delivered unto me. On the day which therein I did tarry a long hour at the Slug and Salad, yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do ya? Why would I? I can point to the villain here, and as far as that torn off part piece of the envelope, I don't know anything about it.
You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspeare?
Faith, 'tis so, my lord. And I would swear that to have it set upon the table in my humble lodgings. Yet, 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it.
Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear your testimony was...
A lie? Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think that I'm the one lying.
I beg your pardon.
I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. That note was delivered to me at my address, besides. We all know who the liar around here is.
If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found in Mr. Shamspeare's room.
I don't see why I should explain.
Sorry?
I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is just to say what happened, that's all. If it's your job to give the explanations and the proofs, you, the fledgling lawyer.
The fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth.
Well, counsel,
I'm ready, my lord.
very well then. The defence will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses.
Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shamspeare's room. There can be no question of that. And that's how she acquired the note. Yes, two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this. And it's not a pretty one. So on the day of this incident, okay. Olive Green sent the letter to Shamspear to get him to go away from his lodgings, at which point Olive Green took the chance to go in and, have a look around. Then, on the day of this incident, when he went out again at 5 p.m, he still hasn't said why he went out on the day of the actual him being poisoned, right? At that point, she used that opportunity. No, she was in hospital. So when did she take the letter?
Oh, I do remember now. It was a week ago, peradventure, that note was delivered unto me.
Hold it! And can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all?
Nay, sire, 'tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with a knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily, 'tis impenetrable.
Mr. Duncan Vott had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbour, so surely you knew him, didn't you?
Alack, if the choice is betwixt I knew him and I knew him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted.
Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature.
Marry, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So 'tis true I was compelled by mine own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern. Yet in the end my curiosity was not satiated.
Bum, 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 bum. Hold it! So even after waiting for an hour, nobody appeared.
Well, yes, sire, 'tis as thou say'st.
Really? You paused for a moment before you answered.
In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall.
Really?
Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all?
It was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad. I was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread. And all around me I danced a great many companions.
Do you mean it?
Flies, sire, flies.
Good Lord.
In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a midsummer night's dream, come to taunt me.
I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking that the flies are to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me?
Hold it!
Hold it! When exactly did you notice it had gone missing?
Such idle thoughts ne'er occupied my mind. I am busied with greater ideas.
In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your outing to the tavern and Mr. Natsume's visit to your room.
Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval.
Such idle thoughts ne'er occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas.
And yet during that time, Miss Green was comatose in hospital, was she not? Clearly, then, she could not have been stealing things from Mr. Shamspear's room.
Oh, yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir?
You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation, but you have
You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note.
Oh,
I am not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that.
oh dearie me.
What's Lord Van Zykes getting at?
Hold it!
Hold it! It seems this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shamspit about 1 week ago,
Oh, does it?
but for some reason it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspit's lodgings.
Objection!
Objection! But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless.
Miss Green could only have come in possession of the note by stealing it from Mr. Shamspeare's room. And yet, there is no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. We're close now. I can feel it. We're so close to a breakthrough.
I can point out the villain here. And as far as that torn off piece of envelope, I don't know anything about it.
Hold it! Hold it! So you don't want to tell the court the truth about the letter, is that it?
I'm a fledgling artist, remember? Artists are nearly always introverted characters. Introverted? Fie! This fledgling doth readily cast aspersions about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph. Birds do harmonize with my song. The wind doth frolic on my wing. Oh pity, wherefore dost thou accuse me, one so pure of heart? Oh pity, wherefore dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman? Pure of heart? Oh, I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure. Tragedy! Thou shalt not know about the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh, the days, oh, the years, alas, alas, to enlighten thee, thou must wait so long and in vain.
This pose has got to be one of my favourites. Mr. Naruhodo interjects with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine. I'm no Shakespearean actor, Miss Susato. No, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument is evidence. Yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that's where she found this letter. Yes, two more or less foregone conclusions that lead to one terrifying conclusion. Yes, two more or less foregone conclusions that lead me to one terrifying conclusion. Terrifying? Yes, I'm afraid to say that the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely.
Objection!
Fuck! I was fairly happy with that. My lord, there are clearly grounds for being suspicious of that last statement.
I'm sorry, Count, but I fail to see why.
Well, you know, I was just playing devil's advocate.
Yes, you do appear to have something with the devil in you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Says the man merrily dishing out penalties. Okay. I'll do a final press of everything. Just in case.
Hold it! Hold it!
They do use the chime a lot, don't they?
Hold it! Objection!
Objection!
Hold it!
Okay, let's play process of elimination. Or maybe I have to examine something even more. It's obviously to do with the £1,000 worth of loot. I do remember now. Okay, that's nothing. I can't prove that anybody came. That I believe. That seems like it's the one. That isn't making any statement at all, so it has to be this. And that lines up with the fact that when pressing this...
Hold it!
This. It lines up with this. Van Zykes is, you know, digging into the witness. What's Lord Van Zykes getting at? He's getting at this. Let's read again. You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. I'm not here to advocate for your defense. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. To poison him. You went in there to place the poison. Okay, I think I'm happy that it's this statement. She's asking a question and we need to answer it. I'm going to read Naruhodo's tip again. Yeah. Two conclusions. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room. And that's where she found this letter. So there's two facts there. She broke into Shamspeare's room, she found the letter. Those two facts aren't linked. She did not go into the room looking for the letter. Okay. I want to say that she went in there to place the poison. Objection. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle. And though the contents spilt during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained.
Oh,
According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes's chemistry set, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine.
What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare.
oh,
Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison.
Can this be?
She wanted to prove that the person in the room below killed Duncan Ross using the gas pipe. So she needed to prove that it's somebody on the floor below. Wait, Shamspeare arrived 3 months ago. Duncan Ross arrived or died 1 month ago. She wanted to prove that Shamspeare killed Duncan Ross. Because she figured out his trick of how he did it. And understood of his motive of why he did it. To get the £1,000 loot. Because he wanted the room above. Not the room on the ground floor. She figured it out. And to test it, and for revenge, she put the poison on the pipe, waiting for when he would do it again.
you broke into my room to...
This may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green. Okay.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear me!
Order! Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with the intent to kill?
Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts.
But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely.
Well, that's a very good point. No, it's just like Apollo Justice episode 4. Right? Like, the trap doesn't have to be triggered straight away.
Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon.
There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. Lord Van Zykes. And of course, the following morning, there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Ah, yes! You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder? That's right, as the defense has already proposed. Okay. In Van Zyk's statement here, a circumspect criminal would likely not have chosen to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. That refers not to Olive Green, but to William Shamspeare. He wasn't going to blow into the pipe and try and kill Mr. Natsume at that time. No way. That's right. That's right, and as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself, to cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. The thing that I looked up on Wikipedia and found out that the cause of death when you take Strike 9 is asphyxia is unfortunately irrelevant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe.
His intended victim being in a prison cell. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant.
And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right, Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end.
Trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted.
That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's rooms for some 4 days earlier. Mary! With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all a part of the plan.
What plan?
The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. So Olive Green sent the letter to Shamspeare to get him out of his room so that she could get in. At which point she put the stuff on that pipe. Why did Mr. Shamspeare follow the letter's instructions? Simple. It's because he killed Duncan Ross. And so, as the killer, seeing a letter saying, I've got some new facts about the death of Duncan Ross, would very well get him worried. So, Shamspeare in his room. Natsume's still there at this time, right? He reads the letter from Olive Green and leaves at 5 PM. At which point Olive Green sneaks into his room while, no less, we have Shamspeare in the pub. So she goes in, does her things, because she suspects that he killed, and she wants revenge, and she wants to prove, and she thinks she understands the reason that he did it is to get a hold of the jewelry. Right? So she did the thing. She leaves. At which point, while she's leaving, she gets stabbed in the back from Garadub's wife's knife. Then, Mr. Natsume gets arrested. Mr. Shamspeare gets back to his room. He probably gets questioned. Realizing that Mr. Natsume isn't going to be there anymore, he doesn't need to kill Mr. Natsume. So instead, nothing happens. And the whole trial of episode 4 of Greatest Attorney 1 happens. After which, Mr. Natsume comes back to his room. And now is the important part. Shamspeare had to go out that day for some reason. When he comes back, he bumps into Natsume and they agree to meet at 9 PM. So they meet at 9 PM. And after they meet at 9 PM, he goes and Shamspeare fills the soap with the tea because he has no water. And then he decides, right, now is the night. I have to do it. I have to get him out of that room so that I can have that room. So he blows on the pipe. That's when he's poisoned. And that's... okay.
To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time.
To make sure I wasn't home.
Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed.
You mean to say that letter
Was written by Miss Green, yes. She was going to destroy the evidence. And in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room.
Order, order. What do you have to say for yourself, witness?
Oh, just who are you? Why did you try to kill me? To kill me?
Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial.
So, that's what's behind all of this.
You will share
your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind this woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life?
Take that! Take that!
Duncan Ross.
That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings at Mr. Garadub's, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross.
I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers 1 month ago when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague. Ah, of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such.
Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing a gas leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple.
Oh! Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths, that's all people care about. If it's an interesting story, they want to know. It doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, the story's lost its appeal. Everyone's forgotten him. You mean Duncan was...
Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé.
Fiancé?
You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspeare. But she's known exactly who you are all along. Because you're her sworn enemy. The murderer who took away the life of the man she was going to marry.
Marry?
Instead of Mary. Or is it supposed to be Mary in the first? I don't know. Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspeare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe?
This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, Counsel? Each on different counts of murder?
Yes, my lord, that's correct.
Objection!
Objection! Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies, I deny every utterance. And you'll have to forgive me.
No.
And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything, either.
Miss Green?
I'm sure you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel.
Objection!
Objection! But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason? If Naruhodo was dank, like, he would have used that as a chance to show Mrs. Green that my client is being accused of this crime and he's innocent, and yet you think you don't deserve any punishment at all, and he does. You know, play on the emotional strings, because she's clearly very emotional.
I thought I'd have a look around, that's all.
Sorry?
You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. Oh vileness, oh villainy, oh tyranny, oh rotundity of woman. But in any case, when I did leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock. That whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door with some terps and a piece of wire. Oh awfulness, oh artfulness, oh tyranny, oh profanity of woman.
We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion. But for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed.
Well, I spotted the note that I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. one of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it, I discovered his secret hiding place.
Eh? Yes, we also discovered that hiding place. Inside, we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box.
Oh yes, well the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty.
What? There was something in it?
Yes. This rather nice key.
Oh! What are you doing with that? What the? Every ounce of color has drained from his face.
Give it here. Give it to me now. It's mine. I inherited it.
What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it.
No,
What's all this about? He inherited that key.
It was obviously important to you, so you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I didn't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back this minute. Give it to me.
Calm yourself, witness.
So Mr. Shamspeare has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspeare at first, but considering everything we now know, I think there is actually something that could explain it.
What?
No, that's not right. Angry Van Zykes is a mood, dude.
What?
I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal, everything we've seen and heard. Because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all these events.
In that case, Counsel, I must demand that you present evidence to the court to support your claim. What is it that you say can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspeare's alleged crimes?
Take that! Take that!
That's an official police report, is it not?
The Selden file. How did you get a hold of that?
Sir Selden.
The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room.
Well, yes, we know this certainly.
A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries.
I see.
And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The some £1,000 worth of loot that he stole, which as yet remains to be found.
Ah, yes, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in his file here.
£1,000 lost en route to hell. That was how the papers summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in. He was the cellmate. Holy shit, that was a good guess.
Gah. Oh, you mean this key is...
Mr. Shamspeare, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you. A false charge.
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in this file, but a simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings?
There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot.
So, it all comes out.
Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense.
When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garradob's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice.
Because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross.
Oh,
Which is why Mr. Shamspeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room.
However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it.
Mr. Soseki Natsume, the defendant of this case, no less.
So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspeare? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple and a very avaricious reason. To get your hands on the thousand... All for one very simple and avaricious reason. To get your hands on the £1,000 of loot left behind by the dead convict.
ugh, you, oh.
We got him, boys.
Looks like I'm gonna snuff it before they get to stretch me now.
Oh, looks like I'm going to snuff it before they get to stretch me leg. Listen, I want you to have me loot. Anything. To stop the coppers getting their mitts on it. It's in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See ya in hell, I guess. Shamspeare.
This mine.
What did he just say?
It's mine. That loot is mine.
Oh. Mr. Shamspeare.
It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me. For the time being, anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close, I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up?
There's no question in my mind now. This man is guilty through and through. He seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. If Olive Green admits it, though, it proves it. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him.
No.
He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot. Which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed.
Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule.
If only there were some way we could find the convict's loot quickly.
This is the final piece in this complex puzzle. But I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. X marks the spot? No. My lord,
Yes, Counsel.
the defence would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue as to its whereabouts. We needed the room, dude. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then.
Very well then, Counsel. Let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's haul?
Right? We're going to find Selden's body. And we're going to use Sholmes' technique to find Selden's handprints in that room.
Take that!
Take that!
If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspeare's handprints on the wall of his lodging.
That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defence's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective, Mr. Sholmes.
A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think...
I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspeare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title.
Ah, 'tis Herlock Sholmes himself.
What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy backstreets of the capital, are they not?
Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long. And I see your complexion has worsened since the last time we met.
Mr. Sholmes, he does know Lord Van Sykes then. Well enough to say something like that in any case.
Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit.
If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already.
Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. Ah, My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we are able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities.
Oh,
You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, when he says something that belonged to the convict, he's talking here. Okay, I understand the achievement now. So we need to erroneously answer his question. Ah, yes?
What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time?
Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Soseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loot that are hidden in his old room. What form will the sample take? I need to erroneously answer this question. What about Sholmes himself? We will need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something the convict owns happens to be in the possession of somebody listed in the court record.
Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind? From whom can we obtain possession of the late convict Selden in order to create the indicator solution? You!
Take that!
And what, pray, does said person possess that could be applicable to our purpose? Let's hear your new and improved powers of reasoning at work, my dear fellow. Dear me, your left eye just twitched. Are you currently concocting an elaborate excuse? Not some clever Japanese joke about wet noodle, I hope.
Oh, you got me. I think we need to reconsider this from the start, Mr. Naruhodo. Why do I feel as though Miss Susato-san is studying my left eye now?
I'm ready and waiting, Mr. Naruhodo. The rest is in your hands. From whom can we obtain a possession of the late convict Selden to create an indicator solution?
Take that! Take that! Miss Green.
oh, me. What do you want with me?
The key around your neck, if you please.
It's all right.
That key belongs to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use.
Very true.
That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Sheldon touched in the room that he used to rent.
Oh,
Mr. Shamspeare, as one great to another, I assure you, if the late convict's haul is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes.
oh.
So, Mr. Shamspeare, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth.
Oh, oh, oh. In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No, give me the key. The detective shan't have it.
It's over, Mr. Shamspeare.
No, no.
You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt.
Whoa. Oh, shameful fear, despair, be thy name.
Dun dun. Bum 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 bum.
I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room, that's all.
So you'd have time to find the convict haul of stolen goods. So Sholmes doesn't want the story getting out because of the stolen goods? Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room.
I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused.
Why?
I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing.
Mr. Garrett really has had a lot to put up with.
And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then, this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease.
Poor Mr. Natsume, what unfortunate timing.
Then, 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance, but it wasn't to be.
No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day.
And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books.
I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot.
Which is why, on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room.
Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap.
William Shakespeare? How does it go? To be or not to be? That is the question.
From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1.
Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That's the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done. Uh, mm. At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died.
Let me look at him so that I can decide on his voice. Oh, fuck. Oh, I'm a young chap. The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive.
The gas supply? Yes.
Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason.
That's no joke.
They say it's the convict's curse.
Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is.
Alright then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. For some reason, they both came from Birmingham to study at the same place. And because they're both from Birmingham and both have blonde hair, that's how they got to know each other. Headcanon. There are spare rooms at my house.
There are spare rooms at my house? Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight?
No, I'd better not. We'd said we'd wait until we'd graduated before we told our parents, remember? I'm a young chap. There we go.
But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night you fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted that he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is a bit of regret. I stopped going to school, but something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped, Eastern-looking man with a moustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up the road to Grub's Grubbery for some food, so I followed him and sat myself down next to him He had some watery-looking soup and started to pick a quarrel with the publican. That place is cursed, I tell you. Cursed. The ghost of the
No, that's not even his voice. What the fuck was his voice?
The ghost of the
No, no, no.
Mr. Natsume, the ghost of the convict that used to live there. He's trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked. No, but the pipes have been checked. No problem there. It's like I'm the problem. That's what they're thinking. But how could that be? Duncan was gone and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered a rumour I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations.
A rumour? Ah, you mean?
Yes, everybody has heard the stories, it seems, about how they go round checking the pipes.
How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework.
That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End.
A black market?
I'd never been. I'd just heard people talk about them. And you really can buy anything you can think of there.
Fucking hell.
I'm from Birmingham. I'd never been. I'd just heard people talk about them. And you can really buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Duncan's death an accident, or was it murder?
And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective.
You see, though, that's even worse, because let's say she was wrong and it really was an accident. She couldn't have known, right? Then who would have died to her poison? The poor gas man.
Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and wait.
If Mr. Shamspeare was innocent,
Nothing would come of what you've done. Except it would, you see, Mr. Naruhodo. You see, the gas man would have died instead.
but if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly.
I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeare, and then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Bry Road at 5 PM on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I know that would worry him enough so he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked.
And of course, Mr. Shamspeare followed the instructions to the letter.
I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away. So I smeared a good amount of the poison I brought all around the mouth of the pipe, all the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done and that it was just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done and that the culprit would get his just desserts.
3 days ago. When you were first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward.
Oh, yes, my lord.
I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity we would subsequently find lurking behind the scenes.
It has been a long road, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes. And one I certainly didn't envisage walking with you.
Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green,
Yes, my lord.
you will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shakespeare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Mr. Shakespeare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Soseki Natsume, here present.
No. Mr. Naruhodo,
Ah, yes?
yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friends stopped me from...
From ending your life by drinking what was left in the poison bottle.
I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems.
Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green.
Oh,
And I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shakespeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least.
because of you, I chose life, not death. And now you've made the truth come out at last. Really? I can't thank you enough.
Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Soseki Natsume,
Yes, my lord. Yes, my lord.
the court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would like to call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant. Court is adjourned.
Oh, yes, yes, at last. Divine justice, duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there are any divine justice in this world, you would shave that moustache.
No, this has nothing to do with my moustache.
Some say that a luxuriant moustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes.
Local student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, once again, you've saved me from doom.
I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days.
I was first acquainted with a gifted affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived my life through friendly old books.
You've had such a difficult time, haven't you?
Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not?
You did, you did. And I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's been so far hiding from behind the wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there is nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I've finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live.
Well said. I've come to feel the same way.
I've made a decision too. I'm gonna cut short my study tour here and return to Japan.
What? Just when we'd become friends here in England? What a terrible shame.
Oh, I know. That does tug my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided to take everything I've learnt here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose.
Oh my! So you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume. How wonderful.
Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature.
Why not, when that is precisely the definition, Mr. Moustache?
I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur, yet.
I, for one, would love to read your work.
Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper.
Oh,
Ah, that's very true. And there is no salvation for a person in the dark when the Reaper is the prosecutor.
The desire to turn post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand.
My goodness, yes. Faced with such terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure.
but that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it.
And that was the case we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. 1 minute, let me change costumes. Because I'm done with the past now. Ah! Ah! Fuck me. There we go. So Seki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikotoba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Susato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well. On the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial, on the following day. The day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you. to uncover the secret hiding place in just one day? Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes?
As I believed I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson?
Gregsy's been happily munching Gregsy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley.
Happily? I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer to the truth.
So, it transpires that the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling.
And what's in it? What exactly is the loot?
Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's haul.
What is that? Evidence, dudes. It looks to be some kind of neckband or collar. Is that a B? Or is it an S? S for strong heart. No, it's not an S, it's a B. No, it's a... I don't know my fucking weird ass letters, dude. It looks to be some kind of it looks to be some kind of sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge though. And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can
see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Oh, Hurley, perhaps I could have it as a belt.
Oh, have you noticed on the inside here? There are some dark stains. You don't think it could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it.
Oh, on second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt.
Then of course there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. B. Is it the Prime Minister's? B. 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 What does it signify, do you think?
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been?
Oh, that's enough of that, I think.
What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the colour has drained from his face. B for Baskervilles.
Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, oughtn't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Oh, yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over, now.
We touched it. I'd never seen a collar that large before. The Hound of the Baskervilles. It's got to be. And all those jewels certainly looked to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me. At least, not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar, those stains. Could they really have been blood?
Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now.
And you look very pleased, Iris.
I am, because I was starting to wonder how I could use that, what I could use as the basis as this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating.
You're talking about the latest installment of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I presume.
The mystery of the knife in the mist, and the moustached man, and the convict's curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story.
Oh, I can't wait.
A word, please, Iris.
Yes, what is it, Hurley?
I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question.
What? Why not? It's a great case. It's a great case.
Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear?
Yes.
Dun 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 dun.
And so it was that the second of Souseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
How are there 3 chapters? This game is going to be good. Bum 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 bum. The Return of the Great Departed Soul. Maybe somebody who is supposed to be dead who isn't. Maybe A Shin, the dude who was friends with Marek van Zykes. The Great Exhibition. The massive satellite-y looking cannon-y thingy. The Great Exhibition of London, the United Kingdom. The Great Exhibition of London, Austrian Empire. The Great Exhibition of London, Ottoman Turkey. Great Wheel. Some air balloons. Air balloons are cool. Oh my. If this case takes place on an air balloon, that would be very cool. We've had one air balloon in the games previously, but you do love an air balloon. And I don't suppose we'll see Susato-san in Japan again. The reason I wanted to wait before I changed the costumes is like the stuff that took place in the past and when Susato was in Japan, I feel like it was appropriate for them to still be in the old costumes, right? But now that we're in the present again, once Susato-san returns to London, I feel like by then Iris will be like,
Oh yeah, guys, I made you some beautiful costumes.
and then there's just this abomination. Which, honestly, I just don't know what to make of it. Alright, that's it for today. Unless I come back to it this evening, that would be cool.